So get this, Google says that their new Pixel 7 and Pixel 7 Pro are the smartest phones ever built. Do they live up to that hype? I've been test driving the Google Pixel 7 Pro for about a week and I have some thoughts on it. By the way, this entire video will be recorded with a Pixel 7 Pro. So let's jump into it. My name is Brandon. Welcome to Brandon Talks Tech. The Pixel 7 Pro is the successor to the Pixel 6 Pro, and from a design perspective, not much has changed here. Google maintained many of the elements of the Pixel 6 Pro, but I will say that I think they've done a good job of refining the devices. The uniform color on the back, the glass on the back, it really adds to the premium overall feel of the phone. The camera bar is now a brushed aluminum, and it fades nicely into the bezels. And the bezels have been shrunk just a little bit so that the phone is overall a little bit thinner and easier to hold in your hand. My favorite design change by far is the screen. Now I will admit I hate curved screens, and with the Pixel 6 Pro you had these waterfall style curved screens that were really hard to use and impossible to find a screen protector for. These new screens with the Pixel 7 Pro do have curves, but those curves are much less dramatic, making the phone easier to use and easier to apply a screen protector to. I still wish that Google would go back to flat screens, but that may just be a pipe dream. However, this is a step in the right direction. With the Pixel 7 Pro, Google has released an updated version of their proprietary silicon, the Tensor G2. It does benchmark slightly better than the Tensor G1 did that was found in the Pixel 6 Pro, but these differences are very minimal. In terms of raw power, this processor is easily bested by something like Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8, which would be found in the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. However, the Tensor G2 is no slouch. Tensor allows Google to control the hardware so that they can write software that runs more efficiently, meaning that their software supposedly doesn't need as much power. Now, this is something that Apple has been doing since forever, so it's nice to see another manufacturer going in this direction, and I'm glad that Google is progressing with these Tensor chips. As far as other specs, they're pretty run-of-the-mill for a flagship device. You've got 12 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage with the option of upgrading to 256 or 512 with a $100 price increase with each jump. You also have a 6.7-inch 120Hz 1440p display. Now I will say this display is absolutely beautiful, and I do appreciate the natural colors and the brightness. Even in bright daylight, you can easily see this screen. With the 120Hz refresh rate on this display, scrolling is smooth and it's fast. Now I will say that I've seen some reviews on Reddit and other places where people are having trouble with the scrolling being a little bit jumpy or a little bit sticky. I have not experienced that at all. However, your mileage may vary. One of the biggest upgrades to come to the Pixel 7 Pro over the Pixel 6 Pro is Face Unlock. Now this is the first time that we've seen Face Unlock on a Pixel device since the Pixel 4, and let's be honest, it didn't actually work that well on the Pixel 4. So I'm glad to see Google getting back into Face Unlock. Now the Face Unlock just uses the selfie camera. The device does not have a 3D mapper like the iPhone does, so it can't take a 3D map of your face. It's only going by what the camera sees. However, it seems to work really well. It's very fast and tends to be pretty seamless as long as you are in good light. As soon as you end up in a not so good light situation, Face Unlock just doesn't work. If you're in a dark room, Face Unlock won't work at all. In that case, you'll need to use the fingerprint sensor. Now the fingerprint sensor is still under the display, the same as it was with the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro. However, this sensor has been upgraded, and I have to tell you, it's a lot better than it was. With the Pixel 6 Pro, the fingerprint sensor was hit or miss at best. You had a lot of trouble with the sensor just not reading your fingerprint or not even recognizing that you had your finger on the screen at all. With the 7 Pro, I haven't had that trouble. I have had a couple of misses with the Pixel 7 Pro's fingerprint scanner, but those could be chalked up to things that I was doing wrong. Either I had something on my hands or I was using a finger that I had not yet registered to the device. Overall, the fingerprint scanner is a huge improvement over previous generation. Other features that were introduced with the Pixel 7 Pro include things like Direct My Call, which shows you an on-screen menu of an automated phone system when you call your bank or you call your insurance company. Instead of having to listen to this phone system, read off all the numbers and tell you what the options are, Google will just show you on screen what those options are, and you can select instead of waiting for the automated system to get to your option. Another new feature is voice memo transcription. Now this is very nice. When you receive a voice memo, if you're like me, you often don't have time to listen to it right then. With transcription, it will provide a text version of that voice memo so that you can read it and respond to it right away. Now, the transcription is usually pretty good. Google is best in class when it comes to voice recognition and voice transcription. There have been a couple of times where words got mistranslated or punctuation was all over the place, but you can usually get the gist of what the person is saying and be able to respond appropriately. So let's be honest. The main reason that people buy a Google Pixel phone is for the camera. And this phone is absolutely no exception. These cameras are best in class. 50 megapixel main shooter, 48 megapixel telephoto lens with a 12 megapixel ultra wide, which has been upgraded to a wider field of view than the Pixel 6 Pro had. It also has an upgraded selfie camera, up to 10.8 megapixels from 8 on the Pixel 6 Pro, and also has a wider field of view. Google also introduced what they call Super Res Zoom, which basically means that you can zoom up to 30 times on the telephoto lens. Now, in my testing, the Super Res Zoom actually works pretty well. It's still a digital zoom, and let me be clear, the photos are not very clear. It's obvious that you're using a digital zoom. However, they're clearer than I've seen digital zoom be in the past. If you take a photo of a building far away or a sign, the text is still readable. You can even see facial features when zoomed in at 30 times. It can, however, be a little difficult to control. Night sight has been upgraded. There is now a timer so that you can control how long the exposure stays open. I will say that night sight in my testing is a little less consistent than it was with the Pixel 6 Pro or even previous versions of the Pixel phones. Sometimes night sight works really well and you get a really gorgeous picture, and sometimes night sight just overblows everything and the picture is basically unusable. I'm hoping that as time progresses, we get a couple of feature drops that improve the night sight on this phone, but as it stands, this might be the worst night sight I've seen on a Google Pixel device so far. Other features included with the Pixel 7 Pro are things like Magic Eraser, which allow you to remove distracting objects from the background of your photos. Now, Magic Eraser, I was shocked at how well Magic Eraser works. It removes objects cleanly for the most part. It does usually leave a little bit of a distortion where the object was, but that distortion is nowhere near as bad as a tool like Lightroom. When you use their version of Magic Eraser in Lightroom, the distortion is a lot worse than what I've experienced with Magic Eraser on the Pixel 7 Pro so far. Overall, I think this is a very well implemented piece of software, unlike this next feature, which is Photo Unblur. Now, Google really hyped up Photo Unblur, and I was really excited to give it a shot because, like everyone, I have pictures that are too blurry to be used, and I'd love to see them clarified so that at least you could tell what was going on. In my testing though, Photo Unblur basically does nothing. It tries to sharpen the image so that it is a little clearer, but I have tried photos that were taken on the Pixel 7 Pro and also photos that I already had in my Google Photos library. I have yet to find an image where Photo Unblur actually removes the blur and makes the image usable. So far, Photo Unblur really seems like a gimmick, something to help them sell the phones, but it's half-baked and it just doesn't work that well. Now, that being said, I really believe that this is something that Google will probably invest heavily into, so I'm excited to see where this can go in the future. Cinematic video is another feature that's being added to the Pixel lineup with the Pixel 7 Pro. Now, cinematic video drops your frame rate, video recording frame rate, to the cinematic 24 frames per second and adds an artificial bokeh effect or blur behind your subject on the video. Now, in my testing, this works sometimes, especially if the subject is stationary, but you can't control the edge detection, you can't control the blur, and in my testing, the edge detection is not very good. There's a lot of tearing, a lot of places where the background is not properly applied. Again, this is probably something that we will see improvement on over time, but as of right now, I don't see cinematic video being very useful. Now, action mode stabilization, on the other hand, this I do find useful. It does actually help reduce the jitter and stutter that comes from videoing while you are walking, or jogging, or riding a bicycle, or doing things where your hands are not totally steady. Now, this doesn't totally negate the need for a gimbal, but it does help to smooth out your video so that it's a little more pleasant to view if you weren't totally still when you were recording it. So is this the smartest phone ever built? Well, I think it very well could be. The assistant and the AI features baked into the Pixel 7 Pro work really well for the most part, and do a lot to enhance the user experience. Now, some of you might be saying, but Brandon, is it better than the iPhone 14 Pro? And some of you might not like my answer, because my answer is no. It is not better than the iPhone 14 Pro. This is not the iPhone killer that some reviewers have claimed it to be. It is better than the iPhone in some ways, such as the fingerprint scanner and some of the smart features, but the iPhone 14 Pro is more powerful, and my testing shows it has better battery life. I also think that the iPhone takes better, more consistent photos than the Pixel 7 Pro. While my Pixel can occasionally turn out incredible photos, it also occasionally turns out photos that are rendered really strangely. Either the colors are muted, or things are out of focus, or it just over sharpens everything for no reason. While I don't really love Apple's color science, and they always over sharpen their photos just a little bit, I will say that the iPhone is much more consistent. You know what you're getting when you press the shutter button. I will say that the differences between the Pixel 7 Pro and the iPhone 14 Pro are slight at best, and most people would be totally happy owning either device, with one major exception, and that is video. The iPhone is just better at video. While this phone doesn't overheat nearly as quickly as some of the previous Pixel devices, looking at you Pixel 5a, when recording 4K video, it does still get hot more quickly than the iPhone does. And when recording moving subjects or slow panning shots, the Pixel will occasionally be a little jumpy or add a little jitter to that video, which makes that shot entirely unusable, or at least much less pleasant to view. I've never had that issue with an iPhone. I've never had an iPhone get jittery when recording a moving subject or a slow panning shot. For the price though, I think that the Google Pixel 7 Pro is a better deal than the iPhone. The Pixel 7 Pro is competitively priced at $899 retail versus $999 retail for the Apple iPhone 14 Pro and $1,099 for the Apple iPhone 14 Pro Max. And unlike Apple, Google is known for putting things on sale. I got mine the week of Thanksgiving for $749, and at that price, it's hard to find any fault in this phone. If you don't need the telephoto lens and the bigger screen, the standard Pixel is an even better deal at $599 retail. So there you have it. The Pixel 7 Pro is a great flagship phone at a great price, if you can live with a glitchy fingerprint scanner and a face unlock that doesn't work in the dark. For me, those things are annoying, but they aren't deal breakers. I think I'll be keeping this device for a while at least. Thanks guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.